Welcome everybody, hope you're all having a good one, whatever time it is, wherever you're at, hopefully you've had a good day today. So you want to build a racetrack. Let me show you how. Because right now my race car might be a race car, but it's in a field and that's not much good. Get my UI back on, so the first thing you want to do, escape, boom, track builder. Boom, start track builder here. So the BeamNG track editor is very powerful. And the track it creates, while useful, yes, is not the end product. We will simply use this as a baseline for what we will be building. But the first thing we're going to do, change track shape. I didn't know how to do this for the longest time. If you just do none here, alt click. So alt, if you press alt and then click, you can see the keyboard in the bottom right. Alt and click, and it will take the walls away. And then if you want to do a more flat track, rather than, you can see it's a little bit curved, you just do draw first and then click. So the second one is not an alt click, the first one is. I don't know why. And then if you go up here, you can do advanced pieces and advanced modifiers. This is what I'd recommend. So the modifiers just allow you to get a lot more specific with the height and everything. You can enter in, so instead of going values of 1, you can do 0.1. And then width as well. Change the width. Unfortunately, you can't seem to change the width of the start of the thing. So what I like to do, as height, I like to open up my... length. There we go. Now it's appearing. Make that as short as possible. And then if you want to change the width, which I do, I want to go 12 meters for this track. Pretty typical width. And if you're looking for, like let's say you wanted to take a lot of inspiration from Spa-Francorchamps, just look it up. The information is out there. And the next thing I'm going to do, and this is a program that I forget the name of, but it'll be in the description. It's a very, very simple program. There's a couple ones that have opacity. This is the track map I drew on Google Drawings, and I'll have opacity on it. So I'll be able to, I should be able to, not gonna let me. So I can double check how my track is coming along as compared to my track map. Obviously, I'll be a lot more zoomed out. Another thing we're gonna do here, you can see it's a little bit off kilter. If you do your track settings, align track to camera. Align track to camera. There we go. So now it's nice and straight. Good 200 meters straight away here. And this next piece is going to be very critical. It's another thing I like to do is I like to take inspiration from some real life tracks and then use them as kind of a ruler. It is very, very easy to make a track in this game. You're looking at it from the sky and you think it's going really well, then you drive it and it's the size of a go-kart track. So if you have, one real life corner, in my example, it's turn 1, 2, 3 here at Sonoma. I guess it might be 2, 3, 4, whatever. The first real corner is at Sonoma. It's half a mile. I measured it just on Google Maps. So I want to double check the track to that and make sure that it is all the right length. Might get a little bit of a time lapse in before I get to that point. Depends how much yapping I do. But yep, let me shorten it up. And all this stuff can be going back to and edited at a later date. At least it should be. It's now not letting me click on it. There you just have to go to select segment, I guess. Usually, yeah, okay. The game is just being weird. Let me check on my... So that's... Yeah, you want it to curve a little bit past 90. So, if anything, goes double, and then a little extra kink. Like that. And the radius, obviously, changes the tightness, the length adjusts the length of the corner. The corner's pretty sharp at good old Sonoma. Change that, and then we'll add another corner on exit, obviously longer. Get a nice curved exit point. We'll go back and do elevation at a later time. And I'm not perfectly replicating Sonoma. Obviously, if you want to perfectly replicate a track, there's a lot easier ways of doing it than what I'm doing here. A lot easier ways. So I would not recommend doing this to replicate a track. If you want to do that, use Google Earth and API data and things, which I might make a tutorial for at some point. It's just a lot less interesting to me because it's not a creative process like this is. But that seems about right. Let me compare it to my... It's not drawing it. I have to go up a little bit in game. Wish there's a way to keep it permanently over rather than having to tab in and out of it constantly. What am I doing here? There we go. No, still way further out. Can I zoom in on this program? Surely I can. Just using snip and sketch, and I guess snip and sketch is not zoom and sketch. That I think is close enough for me. I think the first corner needs to be a little bit less sharp, and it would be perfect. So we go here. Go a little bit shorter. That makes sense just visually. And again, it doesn't have to be a perfect replication of Sonoma. Part of the fun is getting a decent approximation. You can add, like if you go, so you can split the corners and then add more. So if you feel like you want to add a piece, you can't add straightaways though, which is kind of annoying. If I snip it, yeah. You can delete them though. Double check my drawing here. Add length back to that, and then that should be closer to what we're looking for. Yeah, now the corner at the top of the hill is just too sharp. That is perfectly solvable. You, sir, are a fish. There we go. That looks almost perfect. I'll have to see how it dries, of course, but I do like the look of it so far. And then the next part of track is going to be something completely custom, so now I can go more freeform on my own ideas. First off though, we're going to put cars here. The map material editor. There should usually be a drive option, and I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. I'm just blind. now you can see I have my mileage calculator. It should be ideally about 0.6 miles. Feels kind of like Sonoma, just very flat. But it's just going to be too small, isn't it? This is what I was saying. These corners are way too tight for what I want them, but it's very, very hard to tell. Even with my... Even with the template I have, it's hard to tell exactly how large the corners should be. It was in scale proportional to itself, it just wasn't in scale fully in the first place. Like, yeah. I said what I was trying to say. Oh, you can zoom in, okay. Also, surely you can zoom in to snip and sketch. That makes my life a lot easier. Exit corner is a little bit too sharp. Otherwise, yeah, so that straight's a little bit too long, and that corner is a bit too sharp. Otherwise, maybe a little bit more left there as well. I think we're just gonna leave it like that. I think that is pretty good in my mind. Let's check how long it is. I forgot to reset. Always remember to reset your distance. And that's just the that's a UI app. I'm sure you can find it. I think it's called like mileage tracker or odometer or something like that. Still too short. Okay. Thought I made it longer, but I guess I didn't because I shortened up some things. how you do elevation. Important thing to remember is that if I say click over here and I adjust the height over here, it'll smooth everything. So see these blue columns? That means the height is locked in. So the fact that like you can see, the columns are locked over here. So you can remove them over here by just clicking on that. But you can also add them if you just go boop, little yellow icon there. And then now the height is locked in where I wanted it to be locked in at. And then if I want it to, I'm gonna split this corner in two because I want it to crest out over the top of the hill. I can now, it'll always increase. See where the white dot, oh, let me turn on my camera speed so I'm not zooming all over. The white dot is, that's where it will increase the height. So I don't know the exact height of the Term 1 complex at Sonoma, but this seems about right. And then I'm gonna go, this opening part should be flat now that I'm thinking about it more. It's somewhat flat. So more so like that, and then lock that in at 0. Now it'll be a little bit hilly, which isn't ideal. I'm actually gonna, that seems more accurate to me, the way it comes up here and then up over the crest. Although I think flatten it there. Yes, and then lock that one into height. And then drop this one down 2 meters. So it comes down the hill, and then for this one, it goes back up higher than it was before. Big uphill corner. Gonna drop this one down to 7 and then drop this down to 13. It's a 5-meter climb. Even then, that's too much. We'll do, oh wait, that would have been 6 meters, so we'll do a 4-meter climb. Drop that back down. Cool. And then the next thing you're gonna want to play around with, because these corners are gonna feel really weird if they're not banked. Just a little bit of banking. Obviously not like NASCAR levels, but what if we do? Does that seem more accurate, or does that seem more accurate? Some of this stuff too you can watch like onboards for. But banking, we're just gonna give it a good, yeah, this is gonna be negative, so negative 2 degrees, and then let me lock in. So the same as how you locked in the height, you lock in the banking. And make sure you don't lock in a value that you don't want, because that's not ideal. And then this, I'm going to tone it down to just negative 1.5. Sometimes the banking value that you want isn't even noticeable. I don't know, I guess you can't do half values. Just negative 2 there. And then up over the hill, we will have this kind of drop into a 5-degreer. Just a little bit of a bank corner. And have it flatten out here. Just kind of drop in. And Sonoma isn't this banked, but I just think this will be fun for this track in specific. This corner is pretty banked at Sonoma though. So lock in this bank. We'll throw this one out at negative 10. And then throw this one out at 0. Although, honestly, we're gonna cut further and knock this one down to 0. And then put this one to, not even that one. We'll do negative 10 here. See how this looks. So it transitions in up and over the hill. Ah, it's too much. Do negative 7, mayhaps. Just don't want cars going fully airborne here. What I might do to prevent that is put this height back to where it was, if anything. Let me go here. Remove the height. My dog is snoring. Apologies if you can hear that, although it is also very cute, so you're welcome. Okay, so now that this is banked and then this goes uphill a little bit, that'll be a fun corner. Make this just a hair shorter. So you exit and then you'll crest the hill once you exit the corner. Add another straight. And this is, on my layout, this, oh, I do have paint. This section here. I also have a drawing in front of me that I did that has some notes on it. I like doing pencil and paper and then kind of copying it on digital because it's easier to make edits on digital, but on pencil and paper, it's easier for me at least to get my mindset into how I want the track to look. So we'll get 100 meters straight here. I guess, how long is this one? That's 30 meters. So it'd be 68. There we go. 100 meters. Just 32 plus 68. And then left here. I don't know why it was 18 degrees. I wish I could manually input that, the 18.75. There should be ways to. Maybe there's not. I thought there was a way to manually edit the exact length, but in general, 5 degree increments is, it's 15 degree. 15 degree increments is usually plenty. There's some other corner options too, like this one is a little bit different, and then there's also, don't really understand yet how this works, but you can get real fancy with that kind of corner type. In general, the 15-30 lengths are fine. The tracks do get a little bit geometric sometimes, especially if you're not careful about it. But the way I want to have this section is I need to lock in the height of this, lock it in, and then have this kind of drop, like almost like a roller coaster section. So we're going to have this go down a little bit. Oops, nope. Go. Radius is 68. Length of. No, we're even shorter than that. Radius is 60. Length of 45. Length of. No, more than 20. 40. And 80. And then this one again. So let me lock in the height here. I didn't even drop this one down yet, did I? Oh yeah, I did. Cool. So it started at 14, drop it down 3 to 11. Why don't we drop it down 4 just for fun? 10, and then drop this one down to 6. This should be a really, really fun kind of wom, although it's too much. 12. 10. Can't wait to do the decorative scenery for this track too. Split it in the middle. 11. 8. Drawing. You can see little 3 kind of S's and then big old straightaway. Alright, that's been enough yapping. So I'm gonna go here, voiceover jack, of course. Hopefully the mic sounds a little bit better. I've done some adjusting since I recorded the bulk of the video. But the thing I wanted to go over is more how to design a good racetrack rather than, I'm teaching you how to build it in the video, and as you're seeing in the time lapse, I'm building it in the background. But the thing I'm really working on now is the guide, I guess, on how to build a good racetrack. And what I mean by that is, what things do you need, what do you not need, what should you have, what should you not have. And I think the most important thing to start with as a beginner is look at your favorite track, whether it be Spa, Watkins Glen, VIR, Moss Sport, Bathurst, whatever your favorite tracks are. Look at them and look at what makes you like them, and really kind of analyze those tracks and why you like them and why you think they're good. And if they're popular tracks, that's the more the better, because it's the more popular your track will be. But in the end, your racetrack should be more so based on what you like, of course. But look at what your favorite tracks do to make them good in your eyes, and then try to replicate that in your track. And that's kind of what I've done, and I've made a spreadsheet I'm working on that I'll probably make a full video on at some point, but that's what I'm looking at now. So if it looks like or sounds like I'm reading off a list, I am. But the two kind of big data points that I've so far kind of gathered is you can't have too many good overtaking spots. I know that sounds crazy, and let me go over why I think that. And it's kind of what I've found on most tracks, and it's about 1 in 5 corners should be a good overtaking spot. So if you have too many good overtaking spots, the racing becomes too easy almost, and it's also a lot harder to have good flow and stuff with good overtaking spots. But if every single corner is a long straight into a hairpin, the track is just going to feel really segmented, and the racing won't be very good because it'll be very hard to have a battle, because you catch a guy, you pass him immediately, kind of thing. So about 1 in 5 corners you want to have be a really good overtaking spot. I would recommend having more like sendy overtaking spots or surprise overtaking spots. But in terms of, you know, long straights into tight corner kind of overtaking spots that are really good, I don't think you need more than about 1 in 5 corners. And the other data point that I've gathered in relation to that is that you can't have too many corners where you're downshifting twice. And that's about 1 in 10 corners. And of course that'll depend on the car. Maybe in some cars with more gears it's 3 times, 4 times. The bulk of what that means though is you can't have too many corners where you're really anchoring on the brakes and slowing down. And the reason for that is if you have so many corners that are that way, your track is going to be what's called a Mickey Mouse kind of track. It's going to be a lot of as you go corner to corner. It's not really going to link well with itself, so to speak. And racetrack design is a very kind of subjective thing, of course, but this is kind of the closest I have gotten to having data points on what makes a track good. And then the other things I have here on my list that I will kind of explain as the time lapse goes on is the kind of noteworthy points on what good tracks I have found include. They're not as much of a data point as the other two, but they're kind of a guide, so to speak. The first thing I have down is that you want your track to have a really good flow to it. You want your track to kind of link together, and really you want your corners to connect. You don't want corners to sit on their own very much. And a really, really important thing with that, kind of going back to the double downshift corners, is you also never want to have a corner where you're braking for and not downshifting. That just feels weird and wrong. So definitely if you're, and granted some cars will be different, but pick a pretty generic race car. You know, a GT4 car is usually a pretty good bet. You know, something with six gears that's not too fast, not too high downforce, but also not so slow that you're not shifting. That's usually what I use to test my tracks. You'll see in the video, I use the K-Series GT4. But you want your corners to have a really good flow, and if you're braking for one and not downshifting, it's not going to have a good flow. A kind of another example, along with the good flow, is you want your corners to have a form of cohesion, all of them. So from turn 1 to turn 40, you want all of your corners to feel like they're part of the same track. You don't want a corner to feel like it was just plonked there because it had to be there. And to be two really bad examples of that are on some really good tracks, and that is the final chicane at Spa and the Dunlop chicane at Le Mans. So the final chicane at Spa's a great track, and super fast flowing, really like tricky track to drive. Then the final chicane is just a classic little double hairpin, really just annoying to drive and just doesn't fit with the rest of the track. If you want to look at an example of what a chicane should look like there, in my opinion, the bus stop chicane. Literally the reason double chicanes are called bus stops, because it was a bus stop, literally. Look at the bus stop chicane from Spa. That is a good example of a chicane that fits with the track. A fantastic example of that is also the chase at Bathurst. Bathurst, I think, is one of the only tracks in the world that has been improved with a chicane. I think, in general, chicanes detract from a racetrack 9 times out of 10. But Bathurst is that 1 out of 10 times. Because the chase fits super well with how the track drives, fits really well with the final corner, fits the right vibe. It's just a good corner. And then back to Le Mans and just the Dunlop chicane, it's kind of the same case as Spa. Le Mans is a really fast-flowing, tricky track, and then the Dunlop chicane is just clunky. Like, clunky is just the best way I can describe it. It's just a left 90 and then a right 90, and it's just as you go through it. Definitely would be better. I mean, I get it's there for safety, of course, but if they could just run that straight to the Dunlop S's, it'd be so much better. Just make the runoff wider or something. If we can make Eau Rouge somewhat safe and acceptable for modern racing, I think we could do that. The other things that I have written down, make sure your track is easy to understand and make sure it feels right to drive. And what I mean by that is that all the corners should link together, and they should feel, when you go to turn in, it should feel right. The bad example of that would be like Paul Ricard is pretty bad for that. Just because there's so much runoff, it's often so hard to tell where you're going even, that it just doesn't feel very satisfying to drive. The Miami GP track for F1 is kind of the same way. And a good example of that would be like the Daytona road course is pretty good, that it feels right to drive. It's a super simple layout, but the reason it's so popular is that it just feels correct. It's such a hard thing to quantify, but it just feels correct. It feels like it all fits. It's super easy to understand. You know, there's no corners where you enter the corner every lap thinking it's faster than it is. You know, and sometimes that's okay for a little bit of trickiness to it, but especially the kind of wombo combo is when it doesn't feel right to drive, and then our next point, which is it's not rewarding. So it doesn't feel right, and then it's not rewarding. Ooh. Because sometimes corners, you know, they can feel wrong, and then you get it right, and you're like, oh my god, that was awesome. Right. So that's sometimes okay. Sometimes it's fun to have a really difficult corner that you have to basically battle your brain on what needs to happen. But when a corner is hard to understand and it's not rewarding to get right, it's just a bad corner. And some examples of tracks that are just not rewarding to get right would be like the Indianapolis road course. Just even when you get a perfect lap on that track, you're almost thankful it's over more so than grateful it's done, if that makes sense. A good example, though, of a track that's rewarding to get right would be like Adelaide, the street circuit. Fantastic track. All street circuits are going to be rewarding to get right, just because you're so close to the walls the whole time. But you want a track where you get through the corner and you go, damn, I'm good. Because you just feel like a king after you get the corner right. And that's really what you want. And that's what'll beg players and racers or whoever to keep doing laps of your track. And kind of what I was harking back on earlier on the double downshift section is you want your track to be good for racing, but not so good that it's boring. A lot of F1 tracks fall into this pitfall where all you have to do to pass a guy is basically sit behind him and then get the move done down the one long straight into the hairpin. And you know that's where you're going to pass, so you just don't really care to pass anywhere else. Examples that are like good for racing, but not so good that it's just like boring. Like Sebring's really good for that, because Sebring has a bunch of pretty decent overtaking opportunities, but nothing that is so good that it's just, you know, a cut and dry, oh, you're going to pass here kind of thing. And that's to me, that's one of the big issues with a lot of F1 tracks. Another issue with a lot of F1 tracks is they're not very challenging to go fast, in my opinion. Just where they're all so smooth and uniform and samey, and the runoff and everything about them, they're just not very challenging to get a really good lap time in, to me. Bahrain is a bad offender of that, so is Coda. I think in their own right, they're decent tracks, and I think if they had the same treatment that Spa got a couple years ago, where all the gravel was put in instead of the tarmac, I think those would be a lot better in terms of racetracks. But as it sits, they're just not very challenging to go fast because there's no, I mean, there's it's not that there's no margin for error, it's the complete opposite. There's such a large margin for error that you can push yourself to the limit without any concern at all. And now a good example of a track that's challenging to go fast, because I'm trying to kind of give 2 examples here for each, is, oh, sorry about that, bumped my mic. I think VIR is a fantastic track that is challenging to go faster around. I think that VIR has just the perfect mix of just feels fantastic to drive, all the elevation, challenging, and then it's really, really tough to get a perfect lap at VIR. The Nürburgring is kind of the same way, and there's a reason the VIR is called the mini Nürburgring sometimes. And I just think VIR is a lovely track for just how difficult it is to get a really good lap. And now the other thing I'll say about this is if you want a track that has a really low skill ceiling, then you do not want it to be challenging. I personally prefer, and this is all my preference, I prefer a track that has a very high skill ceiling. A track where drivers can really showcase how good they are is what I prefer. But if you prefer a track that's easier to drive, maybe for multiplayer racing it'll be a lot closer, you don't have a track that'll be challenging to go fast. If the track is easier to drive, people will be closer on track. I don't think it necessarily means better racing, just because, and I don't know how I can say this without sounding like a dickhead, but if someone isn't that good of a driver, but they can now keep up with the front, they're not going to be very good at racing, and it's just going to lead to crashes and just not very good racing. It's a tough balance to strike, that's for sure. But it's kind of, you know, if you have 2 masters of their craft dueling on a track that is very difficult, it's going to be an incredible race. Or if you have 10 people dueling it out on a track that's easy to drive, the racing is just not going to be as good, even if it's close. I think it's a very common misconception with a lot of people, and maybe it's just me that has this opinion, but a close race is not always a good race. I think some of the most fascinating racing you can have is cars that are sat one behind each other for 10 laps, just looking left, looking right, looking left, looking right, and they're just basically in a dogfight. I personally don't like races, like a good example of this, Miata Cup. Miata Cup, in my opinion, is not good racing. It's just draft trains, and then everybody is just passing everybody every lap. And at some point, it just becomes boring. It's just not interesting anymore. So I think it's a really tough balance to strike, and I've gone a little bit off the rails here on the challenging to go fast section. But I definitely think that the higher skill gap you have, the racing will be better, even if that sounds a little counterintuitive. And kind of alongside that racing aspect and how to make a track good for racing, make sure the track allows for some side-by-side action. Don't have kinks that are barely flat out everywhere solo, so then you can't go too wide. Don't have any corners that are like super off camber, or the camber falls off so you can't go too wide. I know personally one of my tracks I've made, Lone Star Speedway, the road course, has that issue. But with that, you do want a lot of opportunities for drivers to either cut back or round the outside or things of that nature, and you can really incorporate that mostly with banking and elevation. And some really good tracks that are good examples of that are some of my favorite tracks on the F1 calendar. And I mean, that's not saying a lot. I don't really like a lot of the F1 tracks, but Zandvoort and Red Bull Ring I think are some of the best tracks on the F1 calendar. And I think those tracks, Zandvoort maybe not in F1, but Zandvoort does put on really good racing in touring cars and GT cars, because there are a lot of opportunities for cars to go side by side or cut back or do different things to try and pass each other or defend from each other. And then the Austrian GP, I always want to call it the Österreich Ring, but it hasn't been that for decades. The Red Bull Ring, you always see cutbacks there, always. And then you're always seeing, cars going up the inside and then holding it around the outside for the outside car, or just a lot of different options at that track. And that just makes for really good racing, because the drivers both can fight against each other rather than the one driver getting ahead and that being it. And then the kind of along with that, so you definitely want to allow for side-by-side racing, and then make sure you don't have anything anti side-by-side racing. So, like I said, the kink that was flat out, you know, if a corner's just barely flat out solo, never going to be flat out side-by-side. If you have a bunch of those, it's just going to be impossible to pass. Other things that are really bad for racing like that is the track is really wide, but the apex is really sharp. It'd be very hard to hold it side-by-side. Basically, the less similar the racing line is to the geometrical shape of the corner, the harder it is going to be to go side-by-side. And with that kind of side-by-side stuff, something else you have to keep in mind is that your track should be safe to race as well. You don't want, you know, a blind corner into a hairpin where people are likely to spin. You don't want, if a car goes off, you don't want it to bounce back into the track. Turn 1 especially, you want to really think about how that's going to go, because no one's going to want to race a track where everyone crashes out in turn 1. Oschersleben is infamous for that. If you haven't seen the clip, look up Oschersleben turn 1. I'm sure it'll come up. Infamous touring car crash and commentary. Monza is infamous for the same reasons. And you just want to make sure that your track is really good to kind of race and race safely. If, you know, especially in BeamNG, what I like to make stuff for, it's so easy to crash out that if half the grid is out on lap 1, it's just not going to be a very fun race. And then the other kind of the things I have that are less so data points and more so conceptual ideas is that you want your track to be original, of course, super original if you can help it. You know, like the Nürburgring Nordschleife, super famous track just because of its originality. I think if there was another Nordschleife, I don't think it'd be nearly as popular. But because there's only one Nordschleife, there's only one thing that's even remotely similar to how it is. It's an uber popular track for that reason. Kind of along with that, you want some unique corners. A lot of F1 tracks have this pitfall. I mean, if you think about Coda, and Coda does have turn 1. Besides turn 1, every single corner is just a rip from another track, right? So you want to make sure that your track is unique and it has some neat features that will make people remember. You know, Laguna Seca and its corkscrew is a good example of that. Zandvoort and its awesome banking is a good example of that. You know, if you think about any track that has the iconic status, there'll be a couple corners, or maybe just one corner that comes to mind that is just super iconic. You know, Bathurst in the mountain section is just infamous for what it is because of how unique and how special it is. So you want that iconic feature of your track so that people will remember it and people will really be like, wow, this is really interesting. You know, if you just make another Telka track, no one's really going to remember it. It's just another Telka track. Kind of alongside that originality too, you want your environment to add to the track. You want beautiful scenery that really puts you in the environment and puts you in the mood to drive your track, so to speak. And it's an art form for sure, especially the environment and the decoration as you get down that rabbit hole. But you just want something to look at and something that sets you in the environment. Even if, you know, it's a racetrack and you're just focusing on the track, your subconscious will acknowledge the fact that you are in a beautiful scene and it will enjoy it more even if you don't realize it. You know, if your track's just in a parking lot, people aren't going to want to drive it as much as if it's in, you know, a big beautiful desert with mountains and vistas and cactus and whatever. You know. So you want your track to look beautiful. It also will help with promotion of your track on the repo or whatever if you have some really cool pictures. But that's kind of the basics of what I've thought about in terms of design, and I just wanted to share it that as you work through the tutorial and you work on more tracks, that you have the basics of what makes a track tick, at least in my opinion, of course. Track design is a very subjective thing, and it's a very personal thing as well. I know there's a lot of tracks that I hate that people love. You know, I don't like Silverstone, at least not modern Silverstone. I think that it's just a super disconnected, not really challenging track, at least for a lot of the new parts of the track especially. It just doesn't, it's not very cohesive. I don't like Silverstone. I know a lot of people do. I'm not the biggest fan of Spa. I think Spa is a good track, but but it's not, I don't put it on a pedestal personally. Yeah, I don't like most F1 tracks, and I think that that's a difference in my philosophy, of course, but I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of people are big fans of Coda, and I'm not. So, certainly, if there's one thing that I could say after saying all of this, is listen to your heart more so than listen to anybody else. As long as you like the way your track drives, that's good. You know, if your track is objectively bad because it's just uber bumpy and there's walls sticking out and whatever, you know, it's objectively bad. There's some things that are objectively bad. But if someone's criticizing your layout or something, it's just a subjective thing. It's definitely a form of art, and it's a form of just expression almost when you make a really good racetrack. So as long as you're happy with how your track came out, that's what matters. And don't lie to yourself. Make sure you're happy with it, and if you're not, just keep working on it. Keep, you know, whittling away the corners. Add a little bit of banking here. Go one less degree downhill here, and eventually your track will be perfect. You know, it might be 1,000 years from now because a perfect track is impossible, but at the very minimum, you can work towards that perfection. And really, that's what everything is about. So now that you've had life lessons with track, we get back to me driving the track. Might even have to cut up this voiceover into 2 parts. Hopefully not. But this is probably the last voiceover of the video. The one's out from here. Will just be some music. So hopefully you guys are enjoying, and good luck on your racetrack. Crunch. Alright, so if instead the height, yeah, let me just remove. The idea was interesting, but more so this makes sense. And then I definitely think here, cut this, banking, 0. And this does not need to be 10. 5. 10 coming in makes sense. This one's 5, 10, 10, 5. Honestly, what if this one's 2? And this one's 5. And this one. So that's 10. Yeah, that seems better. And this, you'll go out wide here, and then down hard on the brakes. Okay, let's try it. I think I want to do, I'll make this long. Where is it? Oh, it's hiding down here. The final version won't be all in the grass like this, but this works for now. See how long this track is? Ideally, probably about 3 miles. You can always scale up or scale down later, too. Although, wouldn't be ideal. Yeah, that was too banked. Forgot to fix that part. And this section is just such a roller coaster. Should be flat out in almost any car. Tony Hawk, eat your heart out. Oh! You should be able to F7 some of this stuff too. So, this way. I'm gonna go back up here and try to run this corner properly. We'll probably flat out from down here, so. Big uphill, and then that bumpiness, don't worry about it. That'll be fixed in the final version. Ooh. I don't know how I feel about this corner. I feel like it's interesting, but I also feel like it's gonna be a crash liability. That needs to be moved sooner. Yeah, it's just the flow feels weird. It just doesn't feel right, which is a huge thing. So let me... Doesn't matter which one of these I shorten. It was 30, so down to... I mean, it felt like it needed to be shortened a lot, and then lengthen this one so it's less of a jump. It's not a 1-to-1, but let me just make sure. Yeah, the finish looks fine. Hello. Don't want it extending out further that way. See how this looks now. Yeah, so now this is two separate corners almost, which is not really what I want. If I do this, I mean, I was already planning on having this be a cliff, so I think that'll be interesting to have it be a rock wall that you have to kind of... Yeah, it'll be fine. I don't know why that's the way it is, but I think it'll sort itself out. And let's save the track too while I'm at it. I don't actually have a name for this track, so I'll just call it track tutorial. Oh, let me, before I drive, I need to fix the banking on this one. Yeah, it does not need to be minus. Let's do -4. -7 was just too much. Those corners need slight banking, just 1 or 2 degrees so they hold you in better. Way too late. Dead. So what I'm trying to focus on here is how much I'm turning into soon to certain corners, because the corner should feel right to turn into. Like I shouldn't have to wait for my instincts. You know what I mean? My instincts should tell me where to drive, and the track should follow that. Here, these definitely need just a little bit of banking. I think if you got that right, that would be a fourth gear corner. Big uphill, keep it in fourth. This part wasn't quite done anyways, was it? Oh, no, it was. Okay. So this needs a smidgen of banking. No, not negative banking. Well, yes, yeah. Yes, negative banking, not positive. Or, well, yeah, whatever. I'm too tired to think about questions like that. Bank, and then 2. Not much of banking, just enough that it feels natural. Then it feels like this corner should be a little bit of a sooner turn in. Oh. Not much of one, just a little bit sooner. But that shouldn't mess up anything. I do want to. The actual start finish will be somewhere up here. I just wanted to start the course with the Sonoma section so that I had a good template, as I explained. So that'll be turn 1. Pretty much the only corner on the track that doesn't link with another one. Doesn't even have enough gearing. once that's properly smooth, that'll probably be a third gear corner. There's not a ton of great opportunities for passing in this track. There's also quite a few moderate opportunities. Certainly this whole section's pretty follow the leader, though. To get a pass done through here, you'd have to be pretty damn brave. Save it. Gotta turn in way sooner than you think for that corner. Steep uphill. This thing doesn't have enough power to get up into fifth. Pretty fun corner. I think this straightaway's all messed up in terms of banking though. Banking 0. We just walk that in here. There we go. -2 and then back out to 0. Which probably cut this corner up so it doesn't be weird. This should be 0. The middle part here should be -2. There we go. So now it's off camber, but not as bad as it was. It's not even, it's a little bit off camber, but not even really. Cool. That's 0, 0, 0 in terms of banking. Let's drive it again. Actually, remember to test the length. Okay, here we go. Give you guys a third person lap. Let's go for a third person lap here this time. Check our distance, how long the track is. To be fair, I don't know exactly where I started, but it'll be close enough for an estimate. I'll get an exact data point later. I think there's going to be a lot of draft passing on this track. Not like Monza where it's stupid easy to do so. Gotta go back to first person. I'm not very good at driving in third. This section is gonna be so much fun in like a GT4 car. Saw nothing. Yeah, this track's gonna be the perfect length. I wanted it to be about 3 miles. Hopefully about a 2-minute lap in these cars. It'll be way faster than other cars. Probably shorter than that, honestly, in these cars. Hopefully. 145 or so. Plan to do a 3-hour race around here in these exact cars. That's why I'm testing it with this car. And don't want there to be too many laps, but also don't want there to be too few overtaking of lap cars and things. Enough space to run, but not so much space where you can hide, basically. Oh, that last corner is deceptively tricky. Probably be about a 3 and a bit mile track. .4 miles is on my tire tracks. Going side by side down that hill will be a challenge. I think that'll be fun. This is definitely gonna be a good place to outbrake somebody. But also the preferred line is kind of out. Oh, I think at least it'll be outside on corner entry, especially once the bumps aren't there. Oh. Missed that apex really badly. But yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with this track. So this is where, personally, I'm going to call it for the night, but I'll just cut for you guys to when I import this to Blender with Spieler's tutorial. That'll be linked as well. But for me, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm probably going to keep driving it. I might record it in case anything funny happens. But as it is, I think I'm going to call this track here because I am pretty happy with it. Alright, so we are back with the ETKK, a little bit revised track. My dog is super excited about this. You might hear her in the background. It's taken a couple attempts to get a good lap, so she's just worried for my mental sanity, I think. Anyways, down into turn 1. It's taken from an old favorite go-kart track of mine. Some of you might recognize it. There's one of the little crests I added. This will then be a straightaway onto a dam. So the dam will probably start about here or so. How I'm going to do that and make it look realistic and such, not exactly sure just yet, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. And it'll just be really cool visually. Almost overrun that corner. It's hard to know where you're going when there's no walls and trees and environment and things. A lot of extra blind corners. They'll probably be blind on the track itself too, but extra blind. Something really important to keep in mind when you're building your track too is that the corners should feel right to some extent. They shouldn't feel like you shouldn't be constantly going off in the same spot because you think it goes someplace else. I had that issue with a couple corners in this track, and that's definitely something you want to solve because it will forever feel weird to drive. This is kind of an example of that. This feels like it cuts you off here. So to the right, I'm gonna add some asphalt runoff. So basically like an extra bit of track that's not meant to be track, but it can still be used as track. And then through here, at a speed, that's a little bit of a jump. That can be too, depending on your line. I think once all the walls and grass and stuff is in, that section's gonna be so much fun because you can actually tell where you're going. And then over the crest, turn in. You might recognize that corner if you're an avid fan of Laguna Seca. This, however, does not go up into the corkscrew. This goes into a banked hairpin. Brake a little bit early. Travis Pastrana, eat your heart out. Wheel drop drift. Didn't quite nail it though. All those bumps that are making me spin out right now, those will be fixed once we do all the proper terrain. What we're driving on here is not actually going to be driven on in the final version of the track. We're just going to use it as a mesh layout for the terrain. That'll be explained in this tutorial. We'll do another lap here. I'll walk you through my thoughts. So, turn 1, I wanted to make it fast enough that it wasn't a braking hazard, but I wanted to make it fun enough and tricky enough on lap 1 that it's, you know, you're going slower on lap 1, so it's easier, but then, you know, on subsequent laps when you're flying through there, it's very, very difficult. And then give enough time here on the straightaway for people to kind of jockey for position, get themselves spread out. And then really tough corner there. Over the hill. It's like Sonoma, except you're going 4 times as fast into it. Up over the hill, wheel spin central. And then blind corner over there. These are not blind. Then this corner is the opposite of blind. It's almost blind because you can't see it because you're so far below it. And then this is the worst offender for the bumps, but again, that will be fixed. Hit another blind corner. And through here is where I plan on adding the wall to the right side, or not the wall, the runoff, and then to a wall. Kind of Bathurst style. Man, that section, once you really get the line down through there, and I still haven't, it's gonna be so much fun. A lot of this track is gonna be uber commitment. My goal is not to make it super like dangerous and super punishing in terms of barriers and stuff like that, just because we're gonna be using it for an endurance race. I don't want half the grid going out in the first 10 minutes. But definitely it's gonna be very rewarding to push really hard on this track. There we go. There's a... Don't speak too soon, damn it. I was about to say, there we go. There's a somewhat clean lap. I spoke too soon. But anyways, yep. There's the track. It's a little bit chunkier, so if we look at that versus... I'll even hide the UI. If we look at that versus our layout map, you can see the damn straight hat and the kind of wiggles at the back are... I can't tell if those are what the length they should be and then the other ones are too short, or vice versa. I'm not really sure. But certainly it would not be very hard to extend the length of the start-finish straight and the straight before the uphill. And I probably will do that if I feel needs must, but at the moment it feels okay as is. But I might experiment with it being longer. If you see it longer in the next cut, I experimented and liked it. Alright, and then one further thing that you want to do, so you want to overwrite your track, you have it saved, I shall call it tutorial. You want to go to your start line. About to sneeze. You go to your start line. See how this is 12? You want to double it, so double your start width to, so in this case 24. 24. And then don't overwrite it. Don't overwrite it. Save it as, I'm just gonna put thick, but save it as whatever you want. And the reason that we do this is so that when we import it as the 3D mesh, we'll go over that. You have this one, which has all the margins on it, and it has, you know, for your terrain. And then if we go track tutorial, this one is going to be your actual track. So this one will be 1-to-1 exactly how it'll be. And then the thick one will be the, you'll see by the way, I did expand it. Now, it's not exactly like it, it's more akin. You can see it's just a lot of differences, but it's more similar than it was. Because I did expand the straightaways. Overall, very happy with how this track came out. Don't confine yourself to, you know, exactly how you draw it or whatever. Be a little bit lenient, be a little bit flexible. You kind of have to be, you know. The track designer is definitely not perfect, and if you know Blender skills, or if you have Racetrack Builder, honestly don't know if I would recommend doing it in BeamNG. I have Racetrack Builder and I still prefer BeamNG, just because it's easier for me to test and drive. But certainly if you're newer to this kind of thing, this is definitely the recommended method, at least in my opinion. I've never seen anyone else do it this way. So if you already do it this way, let me know, because that'd be kind of fun. But yeah, overall, I think the track is ready to go. So I'm gonna go convert it to a DAE, watch Spencer's tutorial on how to do that. Or no, it's not Spencer Johnson, it's Spieler. Sorry, Spieler's tutorial. Spencer Johnson's great too though. But yeah, Spieler's tutorial is fantastic. That'll be linked, how to convert it to a DAE, and then I will get back in here with the DAE shortly. Okay, so you have all your thick track, it's all ready to go. So now what do you do with it? Let me show you. So first off, you open up World Editor, and this should all stay. Now, initially I thought you had to make these a 3D mesh, but I've learned today that you do not have to. So that certainly simplifies the process. You don't even need Blender for this tutorial. So what you're going to do now is square the track up with the terrain as much as possible. Keep in mind everything. So basically see the little square box it's in. Try to make that as squarular as possible, if that's even a word. It is now. So it's a little bit of a rectangle. If I rotate it more, see how the rectangle just gets bigger? So you want it as square as possible, and you can go in with the mindset of making a map as square as possible, and that will help. What this means is that the map will have to be as big as the track is, of course. However, it does not need to be any larger. So let me line this up. Make sure you leave yourself enough runoff room. I've made that mistake. But this corner does not need any runoff to the right. At least not enough that it would go off the edge. And then this guy down here, do any of these corners need it? No, so I can move this closer here. Now, there's probably still going to be runoff here, but I can definitely make this go straight out. That's fine. So enough runoff room now. Now what you're going to do is you click your terrain here. Boom. Let me make sure I'm recording. Yes, I am. Recording. Made that mistake that I had my mic muted while I did all this. So now export your terrain. Export the terrain. Export. I already exported mine because, as I said, I did this with my mic off. It's professional. So now that's exported. Save your level. And then what you're going to do is delete it. Delete your terrain. Scary, I know. Import. So now you get to import it, and your height map will be here. So now you can import it with your new height map. That doesn't really matter. You just need a height map, and yours is going to be flat. So this position will move later. This size will move later. Just import it. And it won't appear like it's here, but it's just under the water. So boom. There you go. And it imports it at 0, 0. You're not going to want to leave it there. Oh boy. So now what you're going to do is downsize. So I'll show you here. See the square size here? Downsize this to as small as you can get it before the track no longer fits on the map. Let me get that out of the way. So, like that. So for me, it's roughly 80% size. And why that's important is you can be a lot more granular and specific with your terrain blocks the smaller they are. If you really wanted to go crazy, you could make it like a 4K map and get really fine terrain. But the more terrain blocks you have, or like the more terrain pixels, I guess, the less likely it is your map is going to run super smooth. So if you want to run like a super smooth, like a smooth running map, then less terrain pixels. If you want the track to be super smooth, then more terrain pixels. The other thing I didn't mention, and I might have to import it again because of this, is your max height. My max height is at 50 by default. That might be okay for this track. And definitely the more, or the less your height is at, the more specific you can be with that height. However, I'm now worried that it is going to be too specific. So right now, man, I nailed that, damn. This is at 9, so that's 9 height, and then 49.99 is going to be our max height. And that will be there, which I think will be, yeah, that'll be plenty for what we're doing. Yep, plenty. Not a ton, but I plan on making all of the terrain around the outside out of like DAEs and stuff, meshes. So right now this is perfect height. And then the other thing you want to do, so I have 80% size of a 2K map. So as a result, you want your 0, 0 to be in the center of your map. And maybe it's a 1K map, I'm not actually, well no, it's of West Coast, so it'll be 2K. So 80%, let me pull up my calculator, because it's too late in the afternoon to be doing 80% of 2048. So 2048, oh gosh, cannot type, times 0.8. That would be 1638.4, 1638.4 divided by 2. And what that number gets you is 819. I don't know if that's right, but we'll see. 819.2. 819.2. So 0, 0 now. Let me. My asset browser is loaded. Let's go. So art. We'll just spawn in a random. Go for this antenna. Oh. Antenna. Boom. We set this to 0, 0, 0. That's over there. So this needs to be negative. Negative. That makes sense. Boom. And now is the antenna in the center of this map? Yes, it is. So that's perfect. So now I just have to move my track to be aligned with the map. And then if you press 4, you can set your gizmo. Why is my gizmo being all funny? There we go. Set your gizmo to be either oriented with the object or oriented with the level. So now, get everything sorted, get the map centered somewhat. Okay. Beautiful. Actually, I'll bring it this way a little bit. Okay, there we go. So now that's where you want it. You're gonna have to redo your terrain paint, but that is okay. I don't even have the terrain material right now. Oh, my material library and everything reset itself. Odd. Let me make sure the grass is still grassing. Okay, good. Grass is still grassing. Yes, you may have to redo your terrains in their entirety, but that's okay. It's as simple as just going in here and applying them. You'll see. Let me bring this over. You just go through and apply, apply, apply. It's annoying. I might have been able to fix that if I upped the map scaling, but overall it's not too bad. You just gotta match, basically. You know, match. So dirt grass. We find T underscore. Am I applying the macro or not? Yes, I am applying the macro. Macro. I don't know which one fits best. And you can change all this up depending on how you want. I'm gonna go macro lumpy. And then detail, usually the detail will be specific. So, oh, this one doesn't even have, okay. So this one will just be some crumbly dirt, and then normal for this will be the crumbly dirt. So I'll definitely always match your normals here. And is this even, oh, this isn't even PBR. Yes, I want to. Actually, you know, I wouldn't upgrade your terrain materials. That doesn't really matter until the end, so no sense in doing it if you don't need to. I'll just make my dirt grass and my asphalt right now. Macro, asphalt, detail, asphalt, normal, asphalt. Boom. So now, we go in here, we can add both of these. So let me paint all my dirt grass back. It's unfortunate I got rid of it, but really stupid easy to add. I don't know why that line's there, to be honest. It might just be the edge of the overlay texture where it's not quite perfect with how I made it. That's my best guess. Actually, we can test that right now. If you go back here, you can change the size. Let's go 512. If that line moves, that's the reason. Ready? Nope, I don't know why that line's there, to be honest. It's very straight, though. Now I'm curious if it's there for asphalt as well. Oh, it's not. Okay. So it's just something I messed up with the dirt grass overlay texture. Yeah, you can see they're gonna be all over. Really does not matter. What I can do to fix it is just make the size 20. Oh my gosh. 2048. So, repaint your colors. Color, 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 color. Whee! That antenna you can remove, or whatever you use to check your 00. Let me remove it. Are we recording? Yes, we are. Okay. Then let me click my stop driving and then drive. Yeah, so you can see it's now misaligned just because of, yeah, you can see where the track thinks it is versus where I've put it. Let me reload it. Yeah, so you will have to position it with your vehicle on land here, which is kind of annoying, but it's really not that big of a deal. You might also be able to, let me bring this back over, track settings. Yeah, you can also position it manually here. So for example, I want it lower. Is this lower or is this? Yes, it is lower, just not that much lower. So for me, it looks like 73.2 is almost perfect. Let's see if I can go lower. Okay, 73.17 is perfectly in line with the ground. Now that that's all in its correct spot, you can go back into the drive menu, get this out of your way, and now you can align the terrain with the mesh. And just double check. Oh, yeah, glad I double checked. So, take that back. Let's see. So 70, that's 174. No. 165? 60? No. 50? Almost, but I have more space to the left. 40. Yeah, there's so much space over here to the left that I can add. Probably go like 130. Maybe fine. Yeah. And then this way, what if we just go 0? Oh, no, it needs to go the other way. 40. 50. 70. Yeah, and then now it needs rotating, doesn't it? Oh, now it needs to be moved back the other way. This is just gonna be a little bit of a faff to get where you want it to be. more rotation. More this way. I know that this track fits in this map. It's just gonna be a bit of a puzzle to get it there, so it's definitely gotta rotate left, doesn't it? Oh, that might already be it. I think I might have already had it, just not in the right position. Yeah, that's close. Okay. Okay, so now that's fine. That's got enough runoff. Probably push it this way just a hair. So instead of 5, why don't I do 7.5? There we go. Because that runoff here in turn 1 might be a little bit tight. I might try 10. And then take like a screenshot or something of these numbers so that you can come back to them. Because you might need it for the regular tutorial. Like, let's see if we load up the regular tutorial. Yeah, see how it's all off? This one, peachy. So just remember you have to save those numbers and then input them for your further track. But now that your track is all positioned, your map is all resized, you can go into the world editor. First off, don't forget to click drive to get the stuff out of your way. You can go into the world editor and go align with mesh up. Make sure this is set to your max height, otherwise it might get a little weird. And, oh, it's thinking. Oh, it's really thinking. There we go. So, again, lower NPCs might have some problems. Just do it in smaller strokes. But you can now align all your terrain to your mesh. So with that, I'm gonna cue my music, and I'm gonna cue the music for you guys too and hit a little time lapse. For any spots where it goes to the ground like this, you can just use the align with mesh down, and it works. Ignore these little spots, we'll get to fixing those later. I don't know why they're happening. Also, you can hear my music. Hopefully it doesn't get copyrighted. Thing to note, just while I'm working on this, came to my mind. make sure you go over it a couple times, because sometimes there'll be like little gaps that you just kind of got to fill in. You can downsize your brush for it and just kind of go ham, go in circles. You know you got something if the game stutters a little bit, but even there you can sometimes see it kind of pop through as well where it wasn't before. Sometimes it just takes time, but you just kind of got to be patient. I'm jamming out to some bluegrass music, so it's kind of fun. 1:30 or 2 in the morning now. Jamming bluegrass music, having fun. Okay, so as you guys can see, my mic was once again muted, so you see me doing a little bit of work here, but this part you just gotta grit your teeth for. You gotta increase the height, so we started down here at 7.2, but I always go to the next highest, so 7.5, and just draw these little lines, and that's how you make the terrain, and you just gotta make the terrain like that all the way around. Like I said, it sucks, but just grit your teeth, get it done, get the music, and as you work alongside me, feel free to, pause at points, take breaks, whatever, because this is definitely not the easiest thing. Right now it's 2 in the morning for me, and I'm just gonna try and grit my teeth and get through it, but we'll see. Gonna get back to my bluegrass music, and I'm gonna get y'all back to your time lapse. Okay, so now that all of your terrain is done, I've yet again forgot to unmute my mic, so I've done a little bit of it already. Just align with mesh down, that way you can get it back to the road to being smooth. And then once that is all done, you can smooth out your terrain. But with that, I'm going to re-cue my music and re-mute my mic and probably forget to unmute it again. And we'll get back to you guys once this part is done. Okay, so once your mesh is all aligned down, I would then recommend you go back through and align it all up, just so it is as aligned as possible. Aligned up will more so get it to the top of the surface, more akin to where your terrain is, as you can see here. But align all your terrain up, and then we will smooth it out, and then we will start painting. Okay, so now everything's all aligned. You've gone over it. I went over it forwards and backwards with the align mesh up. I don't know if you need to, but that's what I did. So now, you're gonna wanna smooth everything off, everything. As well as any terrain features you wanna add and stuff like that. You can always add those later as well, but I usually like to add them now. So for my case, I'm gonna add the big old lake that's going in the middle of this track first. But after that, it is time to smooth. Not gonna be perfect yet, it's just gonna be a representation of how the layout will look. Okay, lake is now put in. Track is starting to look more like how I want it. Undecided if I want to have a river here or not, but kind of penciled it in. Now, really just all you gotta do is smooth. Just all like this. And then we'll have to go back again and then align again. But this is the best way to do it as far as I have found. Just a lot of kind of going back over what you've done, refining it, refining it, refining it. Like this. Some stuff too, like this bowl turn, you're gonna want to be more specific with. You might honestly want to leave it more as is. Get rid of some of the lumps, but That'll be fine. Just keep in mind too, this is the thick track, so you do that so the edge is smooth. So you're really smoothing the edge of the edge. A lot of edging going on. Wait, what? Smooth, smooth, smooth. Just a lot of smooth. So probably another time lapse. This video is just gonna be all time lapses. Let's cue the music. Okay, now that everything is smoothified, we're gonna go, like I said, yet again with the align mesh up and down, and then smooth the edges only, and then we will do one final align with up and down of the small track. And then from there, we'll just smooth any bumps we find. and it is all aligned with the mesh. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take, we'll go 5, and I'm just gonna smooth along the edges here, and that's it. So then we'll be done with this section of road. So that is what is the next plan. Okay, all the terrain is now smoothed, and now we're gonna paint it. So first off, we gotta set up all our materials. So dirt grass is already set up. Sand is not, we don't need it for now. Grass 2, not sure what this looks like. So we're going to give it a grass overlay. Save changes to the file. Add terrain. Grass 2. So what we're going to do here now is just going to paint it, see what it looks like. Okay, so this is the mowed grass. This is definitely what we want. So now we're going to look for the macro. I'm thinking macro forest might look pretty good. Yeah, I think macro forest is probably going to be the best option. Detail should be a grass. There's not, okay. Guess we'll just go. Oh, there we go, grass. So now we can go in here and paint it. That looks that is neon, damn, neon green. So that overlay, might just have to change the overlay. Let's see what it looks like with dirt overlay. I know it might. This not being giant is probably gonna help. Go 16. And then 12. Turn the strength down. Yeah, it's just still too green. So let me edit, I'll edit that right now. Don't need that anymore. I think that's too great. See how that looks. It looks better, but it's too blue. it still just looks too much. It looks painted on. That's the best way I can put that. How not green does it have to be? I mean, that does look just gray. I guess that's good. Still feels too blue. This color. Better. If I did a different macro, if I just did grass long for the macro as well. That looks better, but it's still super arid environment, I think yellowy green might be the play. Yeah, that looks significantly better. Okay. Alright, is there anything else we need? Let's go dirt loose. Doesn't paint anything right now, but okay, yeah, that does have some material, so we'll give this, how would we give this a sand? Right. Macro, we'll give it a... Oh, there's a friggin' macro grass and I missed it. Hold on. Y'all probably yelling at your screen. There we go. Grass be grassing. Nice and cut short. Dirt loose. Macro. Clumpy gravel. Probably macro gravel. Detail. Dirt crumbly. Normal crumbly dirt. Make sure. Make this look better if I go that. Ooh, damn. The sand needs adjusting too. That is some bright ass sand. Oop. Macro clumpy. Yeah, clumpy. Macro forest. I know this had macro forest. Detail T underscore. There it is, sure. Normal. Macro. I feel like the green doesn't work too well with this one. What if we go opposite spectrum? No, definitely not. The mud is also, yeah, all of the overlays I made pretty much are just too colorful. So let me wash out the mud as well. Something you do typically do with mud. This normal grass I haven't gotten much for yet. What do you look like, good sir? Ooh, that's also like another dry grass. I might give this one the same base as this guy. Gravel, I don't have anything for. I don't need both, just macro. Although I might as well just set them all up. Macro clumpy, or macro gravel. I really like. My macro rocky looks good. Detail. Rocky. Not a normal, rocky. Better be a macro, yeah, macro sand. There we go. Detail. Sand. Base. Sand. Rock cliffs is probably the last one I'll do. Rock cliffs. Asphalt overlay. It looks green almost. I don't know. Probably odd when I go to paint it. Perhaps change that one too. Rock, base, detail. Oh wait. Rock. Rock normal. There we go. Macro. Macro cliff. Okay, now that all of our terrain materials are done, we're obviously not going to just leave them in weird splotches like this. What you're going to want to do is go up here and set your maximum minimums. So for the grass 2, not that one. Well, it does remind me for the rock cliff I need to fix it. Let me see how that looks. Not sure why that looks so wacky. Oh yeah, I do. I don't. There we go. Okay, so instead of having all of our terrain materials like this, we're going to set our minimums and maximums there, and then we're going to paint grass to everywhere that it can apply in that range. Oh, that is rock. On the wrong window, there we go. So, we'll probably get some places we don't want it, like down in the little riverbed here, but this is just to give us an idea. And again, not everywhere is going to be like this, but you want to do this before you paint your asphalt. I'm probably going to replace a lot of the areas that aren't near the track with a different color as well, because this is only really meant to be the mowed grass. It's, you know, manicured near the track. There'd be a lot of upkeep in the desert. Well, that's not even really desertous though, it's more mountainy, so I guess it makes some sense. But it's all mown and stuff, so we'll see where I want to keep it. However, it will at very minimum be on the flat area, so it'll probably stay like near the bridge here, near the start-finish line for now. Okay, so the other one I wanted to have of the same kind of thing. Was it dirt grass that I wanted to? Yes. So anywhere where I don't feel the existing one fits, I can now go back over it with dirt grass. And while it looks the same from the air, oh, it does look, that's not the one I wanted. Is it just grass? No. Dirt loose? Yes. Okay. So, kind of sandy one will go anywhere else. We do have sand traps we'll be able to place too. We'll do those not in this tutorial though. Those will be more when we start placing the walls and things. But this will just add some nice terrain variation. Kind of where the sand will have settled in real life. And that grass on the hill will not be there. Oh, that's a bit of a steep hill. And some of the stuff like this will affect. So, ideally you don't want to do any terrain editing at this point, but you'll definitely still have to. And then you'll have to just go back over the terrain. You know, it's world editing. You do the same things 4, 5, 6 times each as you refine it. But it's kind of just the way you have to do it. The area is further away. I'm gonna paint this color. And again, this is just the rough. Like, obviously it won't be this harsh in the final version. It'll look a lot nicer. But probably cue the music again and get going. Okay, so next up, we're going to figure out what other terrains we want to do. So, forest is more so for a bunch of bushes right now. But I might add trees, so I think I'm going to leave that actually for the forest. Dirt loose we already did. Grass 2 is what's here. This grass, I think I'm going to do a little bit steeper. So which one looks better steep? Would it be this one or that one? Still has some green in it, so I'm going to use this as a transition piece. So this one will go from 0.1 to 5. Let me make this 2048. Oh. Has the same weird line that I messed up with. Should be pretty easy to fix, but I just haven't done so. Do I want to do 0 to 5? So what other ones do we have before I go too crazy? So we have grass and then the dirt loose, which is what... No, wait. Dirt loose is what I already did there. And the dirt grass is what's already placed. This is all dirt grass. This is grass 2. This is just grass. Yes, it's just grass. So I think I'll leave it as is. And then, I don't want, yeah, I'll go to 10. .9, that works. Okay. The other one I can do 10 to 20, and then 20 and up will be rocks. Rocks! These look so similar anyways that it doesn't really matter. The grass and the dirt grass. Okay, so we'll leave the existing grass at 10 to 20, and then 20 and up. Just 19.8 point up, whatever, who cares. We'll do the rock cliff. Just a little bit rocky there, but that's kind of perfect. Okay, so now the map is looking all Play-Doh-y basically, but it's all terrained in. And you'll have to redo these materials again once you switch to PBR, if you do. But that's much later down the line. So you definitely want to get all the colors in, at least as a baseline while you're working, just so you can get an idea of what you're doing. The rocks will really show you where you missed too, because anything you miss is going to be 90 degrees, and it's just exactly where the rocks will go. So, like this entire little bit of coastline. Okay. Alright, I'll fix that at some point, but that's okay for now. Cool. So now what we can do is close World Editor for a second. Stop driving, because we're still technically in this mode. And then load track tutorial. Hold on. First off, reload this. Make note, 155, 10, 73, 170. 155, 10, 73, 170. 155, 10, 73, 170. Oh, I didn't. Okay. I will overwrite that. Forgot to check what rotation it was at. -25. Scared me there for a second. Just wait for a moment for it to all load itself in. And this will be the final terrain down. See, there's a couple little missing bits. But overall, looks really, really good. This is actually how wide the track will be. But you can definitely see there's some holes and things we'll have to patch up, which is kind of annoying. But is what it is. I never really had that, but I assume it's just because of how complex some of these hills and stuff are. Okay, there we go. Now it's all good. Let me drive. And y'all know the drill at this point. So let's cue the music. Okay, now that it's all mostly smoothed out, we are going to paint the asphalt. And this is just as simple as coloring within the lines. So, I usually go a little bit larger. I'll make sure that you have your terrain, the angles fine. And make sure you're selected on the right terrain, that might help too. As you see, this is my asphalt texture. Looks a little funky, to be honest. Let me see if I can improve it any. Oh, I definitely can. So for all of the terrains, I've just been setting these, the macro size to 16. And it's going to take it from like this to that. Looks much better. The color of this is still a little bit strange, but I think if we increase the color on the macro, I mean, it's just dark asphalt. Either that, or if we go 0.25 and decrease the color, yeah, that looks better. Okay. Might still leave this one at 0.5. Yeah, cool. So now, let me undo that, and then now it's just a case of paint between the lines. So try to have as little bleed out over the edge as you can get away with. Ideally a tiny bit out of both sides. Always better to be a little bit wider than narrower in my experience. But once again, cue the music. Alright, so here we are. It's looking pretty good. I'm sure there'll be some holes and bumps. I mean, I can already see a couple. So I'll probably have to go through and go around with the smooth tool yet again. But I think we have a racetrack on our hands. Let's see how bumpy it is. My thinking is it's not going to be too bad, but we'll see. Getting a different Spec 3 BX spec car. I've not done any laps since I made the floating track, so I'm very curious to see how this drives. So far so good, no bumps. But I'm very sure, even just for my own peace of mind, that I'll go over the entire track again. Once or twice with the smoothing. Oh yeah, like here. Just a drain. I don't even know why. I can see another one here on the left. Just gonna avoid it. Sometimes stuff like that is okay when you smooth it out because it gives the track a little bit of character with bumps and stuff. It's not 1000% smooth, nor should it be, a track like this. I know I saw a big bump. I'm mainly curious to see if they had a hairpin. Yeah, I see a hole up here. Curious to see if the exit is smooth at all. Smoother, but still not smooth. That definitely needs some manual smoothing. That road's kind of confusing. It almost looks like you go that way. Need to add the asphalt there to the right. A lot of fun through there, though. That view coming down the hill is exactly as pretty as I hoped it would be, especially once I get all the mountains surrounding the place. Okay, so that's a lap. It's looking pretty good. Let me smooth out the terrain and do a couple things, and then I think this is going to be good for the, I would say night, but it's now like probably, yeah, it's 5:20 in the morning. So good for the morning, I suppose. Track is all smoothed out. There's now just one more thing I want to show, and that is how to add a new material. So you can see all this stuff, it's all what I want, but I want to have another asphalt. Don't worry about these zeros, by the way. I don't know why these happen. I've had these happen on many maps. If you know the reason why the terrain duplicates itself, let me know. Definitely shouldn't do that, but yeah, whatever. I'm gonna add a new material called old asphalt. How do you spell asphalt? Literally right there in front of me. Asphalt. There we go. Old asphalt, and no prizes for what material it will be. Alright, make sure you add material and save changes. And I'm just gonna give this asphalt overlay. I don't know why I brought it over there. Y'all can't see it. There we go. Macro. What macro? No, not rocky. Macro. I'll just do macro asphalt again. I'm just trying to make it look a little bit different from. There's like a concrete overlay or something. I'll do that. There's not. Alright, well, it's not really gonna look that much different. Maybe if I do the macro asphalt normal, it'll look a good bit different. Although that looks less bumpy. I want to make it look, you know, more ass. Rocky might be a good one to do. And then 0.1. 0.25, 16. Okay, and then I want to add it to the terrain painter. Okay. And the only place right now that I can think of that I want it to be in is here. Oh, I missed a spot. Sure, I'll be finding little holes like that for a while I'm making this map. Actually, I wanted it to look a little bit different. That looks good, but then if I do this, it's gonna be, yeah, very dark. So maybe if I do macro, no, not macro, rocky. Okay, everything is now in place. Let me go over the changes I've made, because my mic was off a little bit. No, I didn't make much. I just added this little runoff. You probably saw it in the time lapse. I just added this because it makes the track flow better, and it's technically runoff, so it's a little bit less traction. And then there'll be a wall right here on the exit is my idea. And then I've added the location for the pit lane. Obviously it'll need to be wider and there'll need to be a paddock and stuff. But the pit lane is in its correct location now. So let's see how this track is in a GT4 car. Now that I've done all the smoothing, it's easier to tell where you're going. lot of work to this section to make it look realistic, but I do like this corner. Oh, that's still a little bit bumpy. Oh man, I'll need some signs there, because as you're coming down the hill, it looks like the track keeps going, but it's the other part of track you're seeing. Yeah. Anyways. That's perfect. That bumpy, or is that just the way it is? It might just be the way it is. Stuff like it should be a little bit smoother though. And then you can, I mean, you can tweak and tune this kind of thing for literally ever. Is there a bump through here? I think this just deserves another pass of smoothing as a whole. Maybe get 30 wide. I don't think the jump will be here as much anymore, just because of the fact that it's now smoothed off. That's probably a good thing. I'm sure it'll still be there in the right car. Making it more surprising sounds good to me. And there's the big ass bump coming down here. Which, if there's gonna be bumps, it'd be here, down at the bottom of the cliff. So, I don't really mind too much. Okay, let's see how this drives. Hopefully this will be our last lap here for the video. Quite frankly, I rather want to go to bed. I don't know why I decided this all in one night, but you know, once you get on a roll, you gotta keep rolling. I haven't figured out the line yet there. Okay, nope, you definitely still do catch air. Good shit. Oh, ah. That will definitely need braking markers. Oh, corner's longer than I thought it was. Alright, here we go. One final lap. Oh, I always run wide in the final corner. Okay. We're gonna get a flying start for this one. Give a quick look overview as well. Track's looking pretty good. I mean, very basic, of course, but all of the foundation work is in. And just as much work that the foundation takes as how much the last, or not the last, but the next 50% takes. The first 25% takes forever, the middle 50 takes not much time, and then the final 25 takes forever as well. So, it's just all a balance. I swear I'm only hitting downshift once there. That was weird. I upshifted and it downshifted. Yeah, I'm definitely... Huh. Wonder why it's doing that. Having technical gremlins on my ETKK. Huh. So it doesn't do it for that gear. I don't know. It's fine. I can show off the runoff. Look how smooth it is. Oh gosh. Okay. Look how smooth it is as I hit like 4 massive bumps. But it's smooth enough for a track like this, and I'll do more smoothing once I get all the gravel traps and things put in, which we'll be working on next episode, hopefully. This section definitely feels a little bit too tight for Sonoma, which is unfortunate. I don't think I'll go through and edit it, just because that would be a significant amount of work. But if it annoys me enough, I might. That corner just keeps going forever. Totally intentional drift. Love this corner. This whole section is just super fun. Good for racing? Absolutely not. Fun to drive? Yes. Jump out of that banking there. No longer seems to be double downshifting. That was really weird that it was doing that. Sorry if you heard that noise in the background. That was my dog getting off the bed. Alright, one more lap just for fun. Try to lock in here. Go off and spin because I thought I heard my dog fall over, so I had to check on him. We're good. I still don't know what line I like for this corner here. Drifting through it is definitely not it. Oh, that's probably second gear corner. always brake too soon for that one. There's a little bump there I'll fix. One last corner. There we go. Somewhat okay lap. Had to check on my dog halfway through, so I half spun. But with that, I'm going to do a quick little fly upwards. And this is what we're looking at for the track right now. So next episode, we'll get all the walls and the sand traps and, you know, a lot of the decoration in. At least a lot of the macro decoration. The micro stuff won't be done next episode. But at least all the walls and the big grandstands and such will all be put in. But until then, I hope your guys' map building goes well, and I will catch you all later.